player rankings 21 through 30. Going to number 21, Julio Urias. If you guys watched my last video in the mock draft, this is somebody that I very confidently go for just about every time. He's been striking out grown men since he was 15 years old, drafted by the Dodgers as a child. And what has he blossomed into? A freaking animal. So even though he's got one little droopy eye and he wears some awesome little rec specs, this guy is phenomenal. And I was really hoping that he would be undervalued this year just because he's a new face to some in Major League Baseball, not to educated individuals like you and I. So Julio Urias, if you watched the last video and the top 20 picks, if you're in a 10-team league, ideally you'd have 2 picks in those top 20 picks, and I advised strongly to go position player. And if you went position player, pitcher in that regard, and that's what you really, that's where you have your heart dead set on, that's fine. But at this point, the way I would go it, batter, and then Julio Urias. Julio Urias is going to he's not a pitcher. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, guys. Actually, it's almost 4 o'clock in the morning at this point. I'm sputtering, but here we freaking go. We're going to power through. Julio Urias is going to pitch 200 innings. And when we say innings eaters, usually we think about guys in their early 30s. They've got rubber arms. They can go throw their elbows against the train tracks and they're going to be fine. They're going to bounce. Those train tracks are going to divot into the ground before those elbows ever break. So when I say innings eater, sometimes I'm referring to a guy later in his career that's just going to go out there and take innings so that the younger guys are being saved for futures. Anyways, he's not only going to eat innings, he's going to get a ton of strikeouts, he's going to have a low ERA, and he's going to have every bit of 20 wins again this season. The fact that they project him to, underscore or like miss his projections from last year by 70 points is wild. If you end up with getting Julio Reyes or having opportunity to get him with your 3rd pick after getting 2 position players, be super confident this is an awesome decision. Again, players 21 through 30, this is not where you win your draft, but there are some losers coming soon. So Julio Urias, he's usually my first pitcher that I take, and I am more than happy to do so. Going down to Matt Olson at number 22. Matt Olson is a guy that I undervalued and sort of avoided for most of fantasy so far when he was with the Athletics. I kind of looked at him as a guy that struck out a lot, didn't have a lot of offensive help around him. But that's not the case anymore. He's going to hit 260 plus and around 40 home runs. And then put him into the middle of the Braves lineup. He's going to hit the 4 or the 5 hole. This guy is going to rake. He's going to do great. You can absolutely trust that Matt Olson is going to, produce a ton for you. Because in my opinion, Atlanta is a top 3 offense this year, right up there with Toronto and Chicago White Sox. I think those are the 3 best offenses in all of baseball. And more importantly, if you look over at my spreadsheet here, this is really what helps me draft in the moment and better plan. And again, this spreadsheet is free and available to you guys. I always list the link in the comments, so feel free to utilize it on your draft day. But how you use it, in the top 20 picks, there are 2 first basemen that I love. In the top 60 picks, let's say right here, there are a total of 5 first baseman that I love in the top 60 picks. And if we continue down the way, there are 8 total. So this is not as skimpy as third base. That's the absolute extreme. But first base, I want to get a first baseman within this early period just so I can check it off the list, not have to worry about it, because again, it does run out fairly quickly, a little more plentiful than third base, but this is the second skimpiest probably position if we ignore catcher, because in most leagues you shouldn't roster a catcher if you don't have to. It's a little better this year now that there's the universal DH, so there's a little more options with guys, but overall, getting back to the point, Matt Olson's going to be great. Feel super confident about grabbing him for this spot. if first base is a concern for you. If you got a first baseman in the first or second round, I would not advise getting Matt Olson as well, because again, guys like down to Rafael Devers is at a position that is an absolute premium this year. Rafael Devers, people forget, is 25 years old, 26 years old. He's been playing for the Red Sox since he was 20. He's super duper consistent. You really can't ask for much out of a player at that position. And again, for this season, it's so important for you to get a third baseman. Again, within these top 40 picks, and top 40 picks fly by. You have so much fun seeing names that you enjoy and love. But I really advise you get a third baseman. For my, not to ruin the preview, but Rafael Devers in most situations is going to be my pick here if he's available in the third round. Going to Lucas Giolito. This guy is also going to pitch almost 200 innings. He's going to have a low ERA. He's going to have a good strikeout ratio. If he can do what he's projected to do this season, having 40 plus strikeouts over innings pitched for, most importantly, a White Sox team that has a top 3 offense in all of baseball, he's going to rack up wins. And the big thing with pitching in your league and how it plays into your strategy is if there is a huge bonus for wins, Lucas Giolito is going to be a little more coveted than his counterparts directly above and even below in some regards, because he just has so much run support in a bad AL Central. This is a pretty safe pick. Again, I like the position players at this time in the draft better, just because they're so scarce. And don't get worried. Don't get trigger happy if you see everyone just running streamlining pitcher. Those people are going to struggle at the end. You'll be raking in at that point. Stay strong. Lucas Giolito is a good player, but again, at this position, it's so much more valuable to even get a second baseman. That's smoothly transitions me over to Ozzie Albies. So as I mentioned earlier, I think that Atlanta is going to have the top offense in all of baseball. They lost Freddie Freeman. They got back Matt Olson. I think that was a pretty even trade, given that there's 4 years between the Matt Olson going the younger direction. Ozzie Albies is always going to hit about 280. He hit 260 this past year. I think that's the lowest batting average that he's ever had for a collective season. But again, hitting that two spot, he's going to be over 100 runs, over 100 RBIs at a position at second base that, again, in the top 40, there are only 3 of them that I like, and then they're a little sparsed out. But the thing is that once you get past this 40 and they're the elite guys are gone at this position, then people start reaching for these second basemen. So, you don't want to get into a position where you just haven't addressed second base and all of a sudden you're into the 140s and it's oh my gosh, I have to absolutely grab, Javier Baez or, even take a flyer on Brendan Rodgers down here because I didn't take the time to make sure that I got an Ozzie Albies in the beginning. So very much consider Ozzie Albies. I would go third base first in this situation. Third base priority. Grab second baseman if you've already grabbed your third baseman and even a first baseman. But play it smart. You know what to do. Or if you don't, that's why you're here. Fantasy MLB On Deck's got your back. So transitioning on to Kevin Gausman. Kevin Gausman was a Red signed for just about veteran minimum in 2019. He was out of the bullpen for us, did really, really good, and then transitioned over to another squad and absolutely killed it. The entire Francisco Giants starting pitching lineup was just about Cincinnati Reds at one point. Now that he's transitioned to Toronto, I think that he becomes even more valuable. Kevin Gausman, I think, is still going to get a ton of strikeouts. I think that his ERA is going to balloon a little bit this year, but I think it's all going to about equal out, given that he has so much run support behind him. If he can get anywhere close to 175 innings, 180 innings, which you won't have any innings restrictions. He's a solid player. He'll probably be undervalued. I can see this guy falling. I've seen this guy fall just about in every mock draft. So he's a solid guy to have as your first pitcher taken overall, but I really do consider the players around him as position players are still better for the situation. I like Kevin Gausman as a player, but not for number 26 overall. Wander Franco is the best hitter prospect that's come in the last couple of years. His contact rating, I think, was a 70. Wander at 27 to me is not bizarre, but he had a really good year this past year. In his limited amount of at-bats, debuting with the Rays. The Rays scored the second most amount of runs in all of baseball this past season, which a lot of people forget. He's super quality. He's going to be quality, but for that 27 spot overall, I would just want to see more than 16 home runs. He's going to hit for a high average. He's going to hit at the top of the lineup, meaning the 2 or the 3 spot. But I think that Wander Franco is not worth the 27 pick. Generally unproven. He's number 1 overall prospect coming out. He's gonna hit well, but in regards to 27 overall, I think that's just a little too heavy for him. I would pass, given also that if you look over here, shortstops are a little spread out and a little more convenient to get a hold of. So I would pass on Wander Franco. Sandy Alcantara will forever and always be undervalued because he plays for the small market Marlins. And the good things about Sandy is that he is going to throw 200 innings. He's going to stay healthy. He's not going to get a ton of strikeouts. He's not going to get a ton of wins, but he is going to do everything that he possibly can given the situation. He will fall in the draft. He's ranked at number 28. He will probably be available at number 38. If that time comes around and you have not taken a pitcher yet, feel free and know that you can be confident Sandy, even though he plays for the Marlins. I wouldn't stray away just because he has an ugly jersey. I would look at the player himself. He's always been pretty consistent. He's going to throw a ton of innings. He's not going to have an innings restriction. That's a big thing you got to focus on because with all these young guys, one of the bigger things is I know that he's going to be great, but is he going to even make it to 5 innings before the coaches pull him? If you had a Tyler Glasnow over the last couple of years, or if you had a Casey Mize last year, they'd be going into the 4th inning, no earned runs, no earned runs, barely gotten hit, and they'll just get yanked after 70 pitches, 60 pitches. So, or if you had Corbin Burns last year, that even happened a lot. So what you don't have to worry, that is such a common thing. If you can find a guy that's not going to be restricted like Sandy, that just makes them that much more valuable. I talked about third baseman being extra valuable and in the top 40. I would say the same thing about Alex Bregman, but I'm not talking about Alex Bregman. I don't trust him. I don't trust him as a player. I don't trust him as a person. Alex Bregman doesn't deserve a draft pick at number 29 overall. He hasn't stayed healthy since 2018, I think. He's not a young, vibrant player anymore. Given that, again, he's like 27 years old. Regardless, not interested in Alex Bregman. Health is the main concern. One who plays into the crowd as well a little more too. So just the whole surroundings that whole core is still together. I would just rather stay away from, given that there's a much better option a couple places down. But to end this video and for me to go to sleep, I'm going to talk about Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler has fallen. He's fallen about 12 spots. It continues to fall. Has a little bit of a shoulder issue right now, but going to throw a ton of innings. If he misses the very beginning of the season, you might not have him for the first week, but if they bring him back fully healthy, he's going to be just as reliable as he was last year. I guess the only concern is that they got a little less athletic in the outfield, if you can even imagine that. Now they're going to have Bryce Harper and Castellanos in the corners. He might not have a ton of help there with so help me if Rice Hoskins also makes it in the outfield in the same, wouldn't that be a trio? But doesn't have a ton of speed in the outfield. His, infield defense is still very, very much unproven as well. The defense behind him is not very good, but he himself is a solid pitcher, and I think he led the league in strikeouts between him and Robbie Ray. And strikeouts, at least he led for the NL. And innings pitched, he's an easy take at number 30. That's pretty undervalued. I would be confident in Zach Wheeler. So I'm going to go to bed, but thank you for visiting. Had a lot of success with this YouTube channel, even to start in my first days. I appreciate the support. Please hit the like button. If you so help to see my face again, hit the subscribe. But yeah, see you later and good luck.